Welcome to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein, talking about the evolutionary, the revolutionary, the inspiration and the perspiration, and those aha moments that change everything. And now, here's your host, Rich Goldstein.
Rich Goldstein here, host of the Innovations and Breakthroughs podcast, where I feature top leaders and the path they took to create change. Past guests include Thomas Shipley, Kevin King, and Rick Cesari. This episode is brought to you by my company, Goldstein Patent Law, where we help you to protect your ideas and products. We've advised and obtained patents for thousands of companies over the past 25 years. So if you're a company that has software, product, or design you want protected, go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, where there are amazing free resources to learn about the patent process. And you could also email my team, welcome@goldsteinpc.com, to explore if it's a match to work together. You could also check out the book I wrote for the American Bar Association that explains in plain English how patents work. It's called the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent. I have here today Norman Farrar. Norm is a serial entrepreneur who provides online marketing and managed e-commerce solutions for brands. Since the early 1990s, Norm is focused on helping entrepreneurs to optimize their operations and unlock their business's potential. He's worked with Fortune 500 companies such as Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz, and 20th Century Fox. He is co-owner of PR Reach, which is the world's first video press release company. And beyond all this, he's well known and affectionately known within the e-commerce community as the guy with the beard. Welcome, Norm.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So you've got so much experience in launching products and managing brands, and I think a cool place to start might be. I know that you started and ran a promotions company, which is a highly competitive business. I mean, there's so many other promotions companies out there. So kind of what led you to do that, and how did you manage to be competitive in such a space?
Well, it's almost like running a very competitive product like a supplement on Amazon. You've got to just take a step back and look outside the box, and then you can come up with ideas. So that's what we did. At the time, there were 16,000 basically mom and pop shops doing promotions. It's the incentive business. So we put a logo on a keychain or a coffee mug. There's lots of people doing that. And the average person company was making $300,000 in sales at 23% gross margin. We didn't want to be that, that person. So I had a partner at the time. We looked at it and we said, how can we grow perceived value? How can we get more out of a product that's a commodity that if BIC is selling something for 23 cents, how could we get 40 cents from it? And the answer was just building up the quality, like the packaging. We did T-shirts. We did lots of T-shirts for the breweries, and it was case stuffers. And we put them into a poly bag. We put our label in it. We just make it look better and more presentable. When we ship them over, we'd have white boxes with our name on them, and then just tape, fragile tape with our logo on it. Everything had our logo, and we were branded. Well, at the end of the day, Fortune 500 companies loved us. So our motto basically was on time, every time, exactly like you ordered it. They opened up their box, and guess what? In about 6 months, we got to about $2.5 million in sales. The Fortune 500 companies, they ended up financing us for it. They helped us finance. They gave us everything up front, which was unheard of. They liked what they saw, and we delivered on time. Now, the difference was our gross margins were over 45%. And we were the cash was coming in, we were happy, corporations were willing to pay, but we had to figure another way of doing it even better. So this is where we wanted to get into vertical integration. We ended up buying an embroidery company, buying the screening company, buying a fulfillment center, buying a courier company, and we just kind of put it all together. We were able to keep the costs down. We had better control. And then we could really expand. So we expanded into like across Canada, into the States, and we exploded over a period of 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so initially it was about selling consistency. You sold, you had higher margins because the premium that you were selling was, consistently, on time, every time. When you're talking about corporate buyers, they want to make sure that they deliver, because it's going to make them look bad if they don't have their promotion product by the time of their trade show or their event, etc. So it sounds like you discovered they were willing to pay.
Absolutely willing to pay. Just like I have my little beard comb I use, right? And I could have bought that on Amazon for 79 cents. But I went with one that was packaged really nice. And I know I was overpaying. They sold me on the packaging, So I paid $17.95 for the same beard comb I could have got for 79 cents. But I'm willing to pay because it looked great. The perceived value was there.
Right, exactly. And so that seems like that spelled the initial success. And then you continue to leverage the success based on automation.
I was lucky enough. We were growing so fast, it was out of control. And everything from the computers to just getting personnel, it was tough. Like we almost failed because we had to cross this chasm. So I took this, I read the E-Myth. It just came out, Michael Gerber. And I read that, and that changed everything. We systemized everything. We actually created a 5-page how to make a cup of coffee policy in our office. That was our first policy. And the reason why we did it is, if you couldn't follow a simple policy, how could you follow the more complicated policies? And what this, it was like a light went off. Automation and scalability. If you can't do those two, you'll never grow. You will always be one of the others.
Right. And I guess in the words of Michael Gerber, you'll be a technician with having an entrepreneurial seizure, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, I guess the principle there is that a lot of times in our businesses, we're not entrepreneurs. We're just a guy who's good at doing something, who's then trying to make a business out of doing that thing. And
it's interesting that you say that, because, as an entrepreneur, we've all been there. It's a sales roller coaster where you're an expert in what you do. You have a passion for what you do, and you have to hire somebody because you want to grow. You hire somebody, you don't train them enough, and sales start to plummet because they're making mistakes, which means that they're no good. You take it over, and the whole cycle happens. And until you can break that cycle, you're always going to go through that. People will never meet your expectations. Nobody's going to be trained well enough. And, and there's some really great tools out there. Like, I think you've talked to Nathan Hirsch lately with what he's doing. He has, I guess, a course on systemizing everything now, similar to what the E-Myth did back in the day. And I'm finding that, taking and having it laid out in front of you, oh my gosh, it's so much easier than having to start from scratch. Like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Yeah, but I guess as a business owner, it's important to figure it out first before you could hire someone. A friend of mine says, you can't go out and hire a dragon slayer until you can slay an effing dragon yourself.
Greed.
Yeah, I mean, it's to some extent, I think, as the business owner, you need to crack the code, and then you can train other people to do it. But I think, I mean, that cycle that you describe kind of lends itself to that. Is you figure it out, and then you systematize it, and then if you can find someone else who already knows how to systematize it, then you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Yeah. And it's as easy as just tracking, for me anyways, the way that I look at it, just get those C tasks, the stuff that you repeat every day. It's just a pain in the butt, or your weaknesses. So if you can get those off your plate and just write them down, even if if you're starting out in a business, just so you can pass them on later on. It's so much easier. I made this mistake. We were in the middle of it and trying to create policies and procedures, when if I were to start all over, and what I do now is right from the start, I'll have a video going. I'll tape what I'm doing, or tape. That's how old I am. I'll record what I'm doing. And then I have some reference that I can give to a VA once I have the sales to back it up.
Yep. Exactly. And so it sounds like the promotion company helped set a framework that's allowed you to go into other businesses and be successful.
Right. Vertical integration. I live by that. Perceived value. Perceived value is probably one of the biggest things I got out of it. Just, you can take something. I've told you about this before. I know that we've talked at an event, and I talk about this chef's knife. And so the chef's knife, we're getting at 1640, and we're able to package it up, and we launched it at 49. So, okay, profits there. Mm-hmm. Well, we changed the packaging from a plastic clamshell to a nice box, rigid cardboard box. Kind of looks like the iPhone box. All right, so we went from 49, we could get it all the way up to 97. We pushed it up to 124, had lots of resistance, started to come down, put it into a gorgeous wood box. Now you're looking at, we're hoping to break the 200 mark. A $16 knife. Why? Because it's perceived value.
Yep. And the truth is that the best knives that best knife brands that you could think of that are selling knives in that price range, they're all $16 knives anyway. And there's no reason you can't do what they're doing. It's just the perception of the brand.
A lot of the times, as long as you have the quality in the brand, or the polished images are there, your title's there, your brand is represented. So you've got that sort of culture based around the brand. Somebody goes there, they look for you online, they see that you have a nice website, not some junky website. They see your social media, it's consistent. You can play with any of the big guys out there as long as you have that type of brand culture. And you can compete. You can, those $16 knives, it's a micro brand. Nobody's heard of it. It's just consistent. But if we didn't do that and somebody went over and the website was horrible, well, they're getting a mixed message, and they would probably click off and go to the better brand.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about PR and the role of PR in launching products.
Old school marketing still works. So I just want to clear something up. So when we talk about press releases, a lot of people, I hear this all the time. Press releases don't work. Press releases don't work. They have there's no juice to them. Well, they're doing it wrong, and they're probably doing it on the cheap. They're trying to get the cheapest distribution possible, trying to do everything themselves, writing the press release themselves, and they don't know how. Or they're hiring somebody, very inexpensive. They say they're a press release writer, but there's a big difference between press release writing and a blog article writer. They might be a very good blog article writer, but a horrible press release writer. So press releases have always worked. The people that do it right get results. The people that don't do it right, they complain. And the new people coming into the marketplace, well, what are they going to see? The squeaky wheel, saying how horrible it is. I've, for about 20 plus years, any business I've been involved with, I've done press releases. And usually it was a monthly subscription that I would just, do one press release. And sometimes the credits built up because I just didn't have anything to write about. I didn't know what to write about until I started to write more and more and more press releases. Every one of the businesses we saw results. In fact, I was on another Kevin's podcast. So I was talking to him, and I showed one of our brands, and I put in the keyword phrase, and it was position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down. All the images were us. The video was us. Went to the second page. It was all us. 2 pages of Google were talking about our brand. So it was, it's there. It showed. And while we were talking, I launched a press release 24 hours. And this is pretty much any time you do this, you can launch a press release. And if the title is optimized properly, so this is all white hat, stuff we're talking about, nothing black hat. You can go out on Google, and within 24 to 72 hours, there was 279 keyword combinations on Google. There was 170 on page one. There was 131 keyword combinations, number one. Now, some of the keywords were absolutely horrible combinations, but like I remember what the article was. It was bully sticks. Bully sticks launched Amazon. Okay, so all sorts of different types of keyword combinations. Anyways, don't have to get into the whole bully stick thing. It worked. And anyways, now going down and taking a look at just getting a good press release company, and I'll define that in a second, but using it with product launches or working with, it could be on Shopify, it could be a product or a service. If you do multiple press releases, what you'll find is that'll give you a bump in the rankings, at least in Google or on Amazon or on Shopify, because what you'll see is a whole bunch of authority links. These are links from television stations, radio stations that are linking back to your product. So what makes a press release? So a press release is a newsworthy article that's written. Most of the emphasis on ranking is put into the title and the keywords that are in the title. It's distributed through a series of networks, bloggers, influencers, and journalists. So it's just a mixture. Different companies have different combinations. The quality of those combinations and those networks make the press release. If you have the proper networks and you're going to CNN, Fox News, well, you're going to have a whole different distribution than if you go to small town USA. You know, you won't get any, there's no juice there. So anyways, that's the first thing to take a look at is, or ask is, what's your distribution? So I found that if I'm using press releases, they work incredibly well. Now there's something that it's kind of like a bonus. If you do this, the listeners will get a little bit of a boost out of it. Write an article, put it on your website. Okay, publish that article and just write it like you normally would. And then write a press release about what's on that article and link it. Now you're getting the authority from the press release, and you're getting the content that Google loves, content and education, and you'll get it from both sides. One other really nice bonus when you're writing press releases that people don't realize is geo-targeting. So if I'm a chiropractor, or if I'm so let's say I'm in Miami, I can target up to 350,000 people in a suburb, let's say, and overnight you'll be number one in a ton of different keywords with one good press release.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of great little tricks there to help with ranking. And I guess this kind of the underlying assumption for all of this that might not be readily apparent is that rankings what sells products. Is like whenever you're selling a product, whether you're on a platform like Amazon or people are just searching in Google, it's how you show up in the search that makes all the difference between whether they buy your product or they buy the people who just show up earlier in the search.
Yeah, and it comes down to two words: trust and authority. So you'll people go to Amazon, let's say. I'm just using Amazon as an example. They see a product on Amazon, they go, wow, this is a nice product. They go over, they type it in, and people do this all the time in Google to see if you're real. And all of a sudden, you've got a list of 5 different things from like USA Today, Reuters. Okay, you're legit. You've got authority, and what makes people buy? Trust. Right.
Exactly. Great. And so now in the context of that, and in context of ranking and PR, so I hear you've been doing this thing called Brand Builder. It's been killing it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay. So we've been working on a bigger network of journalists, bloggers, influencers, and our distribution. And we've been trying to kind of create a blitz, a traffic blitz. So we write content. We do a podcast that you don't see. It's just yeah, it's horrible. You wouldn't even want to listen. But all it is just a computer synthesized voice talking about your product. You don't see it. It doesn't get published.
It's just like a placeholder.
Well, all it is yeah, it's just going out there and Google's picking up on it. So it's getting all these signals from 7, 10, 12 different areas, and it's giving your main press release or content a bigger boost. So here's a story that's happening right now. This is crazy. So Amazon advertising is very tough. It's a very competitive keyword. And we've been working with a guy over at Clear Ads, George, and he called us. He said, "What are you guys doing?" And what do you mean? He says, "Your press release just went out, and I am #1 on Google for Amazon ads, Amazon, whatever he was advertising on Amazon." There was about 3 or 4 different keywords, and he couldn't believe it. And he went to Google News, and he was #1 and #2. And that was actually just done with one press release going out there, or one of these brand builder packages going out there.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's kind of like creating the perfect storm.
That's exactly it. You got it. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I'd like to talk with you later about helping me with that. I mean, I'm sure it's not just for products, right? You could, there's a lot of things.
Services.
Anything. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Separate conversation.
There you go.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about products. I know you've sold many different types of products, and I'm curious, like, what sticks out in your mind as a story that would be helpful to a person who is looking to launch their first product, in your experience with launching some type of product.
Well, I mean, the very first thing, and I don't know if you want me to go down this path or not, but I find that right now, so many people are listening to older courses that you say, "Oh, you can launch on Amazon for $2,000. It's not the case. You have to have money, and don't use money you can't give up. You want to make sure your first product, I don't know about you, but my first product, and I'm pretty experienced at selling, I paid my Amazon tax. There was a lot of things about Amazon I had no idea about, and I paid for it. So you have to have money. Like for me, I kind of throw out $15,000. If you've got $15,000 to $20,000, depending on the price point, depending on competition, that's a nice starting point. What is your price? So I made a mistake. The mistake I made was I went in with a low dollar product. I went in with soap. So with the Amazon, the minimum fees that I have to pay Amazon, I didn't know, it would be so high, $465. So are you just at the beginning for me to do anything? It was $465. Then I had my cost of goods. Then I had to make some money. I had to sell over $10, so try doing that with a bar of soap. And then if you take a look at Canada, I didn't do enough research. Well, Canada, it was $7.95. That was the minimum fee. It's a lot more expensive in Canada to ship. So you have to do your competitive analysis and research if you're getting into a product. And your target price, a minimum of $24. And if you can get it higher, the better. Like I said, it's knives. We've learned our lesson, and we can go back and we can take a look at, I'll never be a bottom feeder. I'll never want to be the person that's making a quarter. I want to make the $10, so let everybody else feed. I see it all the time. Plastic shoe stretcher. Okay. Or any product. You see it on every Amazon listing. You take a look. The top guys, they're doing, really, let's say $49. The bottom dwellers, $19.99. Could be the same product, different packaging, an iPhone picture instead of a product, photography. So the listings just look that much more crisper. Anyways, you have to go in like a business. And for me, there's going to be a lot of people that'll say, I don't agree with this, but you have to build a brand. So when you're starting to get into it, I'm thinking about going into it with both feet. I look at the brand. I don't go to Fiverr to get a logo. I don't, and I don't go with the first name that comes to mind. I want to make sure that there's something that can grab somebody's attention, that it will add equity when I go to sell. So I'm always thinking exit strategy first, right? And that might be a little bit too much for people just getting into the game. But then I want to make sure that I've got my product. When I get my product, I want to deal with a sourcing agent. So I bypass Alibaba. I want to make sure that I'm talking to somebody that can get me the best price, and I'm not, 10 layers deep into brokers or trading companies. So that's like one thing that I would look at. And then the other thing is, invest in a tool like a Helium 10 or a seller's tools. If you don't have the tools to give you the proper information, you'll never be in the game. It's like watching the ticker tape. If you don't, you take your eye off of it, you can miss a move. So that's how old I am. Ticker tapes. So, but these tools.
Well, that's funny because I actually was interviewed a little while ago, and we were talking about computers, and I mentioned punch cards. That the first computer program I wrote was on punch cards. Yeah. So you with your ticker tape, me with my punch cards. We're a bunch of old timers over here.
We are. But
I think that's really, really great advice for entrepreneurs. And I'm wondering. You mentioned having equity for when you go to sell your business, and I think that ties in nicely with IP. And a lot of times, IP can give you that extra boost when you go to sell your business. And I'm wondering just what experiences you've had in the role that IP has played in some of the companies that you've been involved in.
Well, I think it's important that you have to have something that you can call your own. If you don't have it and you're not developing it, or if you're not taking the time to develop IP or protecting it, I take a look at a lot of websites, and especially if you're selling stuff online, and I take a look at IP agreements, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here that have horrible templated agreements with the same spelling mistakes.
Right.
You've got to spend that money on hiring, a lawyer that can actually put it together and protect you. I don't know, what the numbers are. I know what I pay, but it's the best money. There's times to spend money, and there's times not to. This for IP, you have to spend the money. It comes back tenfold. When you go to sell, tenfold, maybe higher when you go to sell the business.
Yeah, I like to say when there's value at stake, you've got to spend the money to make sure you protect that value.
Right.
And I think one of my consistent messages is that it's not always appropriate to spend money on protection because there isn't any real value at stake. There's nothing really to protect. It's not going to gain you much advantage. But when you're building something that's important and there's value at stake, then yeah, you have to do what's appropriate and spend money where necessary to make sure you protect it.
I just look at so many people that don't protect their logo or their name. There's no trademark, and just simple things. And we've had a talk because I have a very generic product, and how can you get around it? And if you don't set it up properly, I made a mistake in the one company that I purchased. I will never do it again. And I found a way around it by just pointing a domain name with that didn't have to be so generic. But I didn't go to you or somebody like you to get advice.
There's no one like me, Norm.
I know that.
Yeah, but point well taken, and I think it's a very, very common mistake. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a e-com event and people come up to me and said, I heard about you and I need your help protecting my trademark. It's like, okay, what's the mark? It's like pet food store. And I just I can't do anything with that. if it's that generic, I just can't help you. And so it's something that people commonly do, and there's good reason for it, because when you're searching for a product online, you're generally going to, well, first of all, if someone was searching for pet food, they're going to type in pet food, and then something that mentions pet food is going to come up in the search. So it seems pretty logical to most entrepreneurs that you should name it something very descriptive, although it causes problems with trademarks. And so I think it's rather common. And yeah, I mean, whatever your next venture is, Norm, we'll talk about it. We'll find a nice balance between something that's going to show up in searches and something which is protectable. And I think that's the balance you need to find.
And the crazy part about this, the domain name that we were talking about was very expensive. And so I paid the domain, and I thought, oh, this is great. Like, I thought about it. I did my research, loved the name. Go to trademark it, can't do it.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Well, you've got me on speed dial, so next time we'll talk about it.
You betcha.
But I appreciate all of the advice you've shared and the experiences that you've shared with us. And if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, they can go to or email me at norm@prreach.com. Social media, just Norm Farrar. Or you can go to my website, brand new website, normanfarrar.com.
And that's Farrar, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Norm, for being here. And I'm looking forward to seeing you the next time we're out and about.
It's a pleasure. And I hope we're out and about soon.
I hope so.
Thanks for listening to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at innovationsandbreakthroughs.com, and we'll see you next time.